Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you as always for joining me. It's Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. We've got a lot to go over today. It's a big Wednesday. We've got FOMC minutes. We've also got nVDA earnings coming out. We will be on Discord a little bit later today, starting about 10:30. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Feel free to join us. It's free, probably half an hour, 45 minutes. I'll be in there before I have to go, but can continue as an open discussion. If you would like to be in there, I hope that you come check that out. So let's get into it. Markets. MMRI, our favorite risk indicator, still rising slightly. So we're in high territory, approaching extreme levels again. Fear greed index still in greed territory, but retracing a little bit. So we had the 10-year yield and relative strength of the dollar. As those go up, which they did increase slightly, puts pressure on stocks and creates a bit of headwinds for them. So we've got cryptocurrencies again up yesterday because money is looking for places to go. So it's flowing into the stock market, into cryptocurrencies, into gold, silver, and commodities. So what happened this morning? We've got stocks are basically pulling back a little bit, weak on UK inflation data. So their inflation data came down less than expected, still high inflation above that 2%, but this crushed hopes of easy money soon. So we will be watching nVDA and the FOMC minutes. So pulling apart the fear and greed a little bit, we're in extreme greed in accordance with the put and call options. What does this mean? It means increased leveraged plays. So this is not just putting your risk at buying or selling a stock. This is basically 100 times your gains or losses. It means people are back to gambling, basically. So looking at our stocks, we've got a futures are in the red right now, expecting a bit of headwinds. In our calendar and earnings, we did get the core inflation for the UK. We are also getting a little bit later existing home sales in the US, crude inventories, and we'll be looking at those meeting minutes. Prior to market on Thursday, we've got initial jobless claims. So if you're a swing trader or hold overnight, that's set yourself up this afternoon prior to that. So earnings today, of course, the big one, nVDA, also getting target, watching that, and a few others. So little deeper look into inflation because it seems to be confusing for some. And I attribute that to mainstream media purposefully trying to confuse the subject so that they can point fingers at what is causing it other than the root cause, which is the money printing. So what if all currency became worthless, which is basically where it's all heading towards? So in the top story this morning, the UK inflation falls by less than expected. So it's not rising as fast as it was, but it's still going up. They're saying the decline was driven by easing energy and food costs, but still there's the rest of it is still going up. So as we were talking about, the rate cut hopes dented after inflation falls less than expected for them. It's still increasing though. So basically what's going on is if you keep a pile of cash and that's your main savings, you are losing that amount just by it sitting there. Inflation is eating away at your money. So wouldn't you want to put that into something else that can either maintain its value, like silver and gold, and be a little more steady, even though right now those two are rising, or take your chances in either stock that might be rising or something other than that cash that is getting devalued. So retirees draining the savings faster than ever because of inflation. I think that's two reasons. First, because inflation is eating away at savings, but secondly, because they have to spend more on anything that they had saved that they did not plan on. So tough times ahead for the US economy. I would like to argue that there's tough times right now. It's just being covered over. And maybe some of you are having tough times, but it's definitely not headed the right direction at the moment. I think there's a lot of cleansing that has to happen. It will be better in the future, but at the moment, they've got a severe amount of headwinds. So, as you can see with this, inflation still causing pain for Americans, but this is globally. It's not just America. We've got parents hit the hardest, nearly a decade, and this is according to a Fed survey. So, if you don't believe me, please feel free to look all this up. It is on the Federal Reserve website directly. So, how does this inflation happen? They're pointing all their fingers at everything else, blaming companies, blaming people. But at the base of it, it's the money printing. So, we've got the current administration just approved $7.7 billion more in student debt relief. So, they talk about canceling the debt. But I want to see the balance sheet on this because it doesn't just disappear. The debt does not disappear, it gets transferred. And they have basically transferred it over into the tax burden of America. So anybody who pays taxes, the IRS is picking up this tab. Well, the only way they get their money is from you. If you're paying taxes and working, you're paying this student debt. So along with that, we've got the EU, and this is just to show we're not the only ones in all of this trouble. They're approving $3.5 billion in frozen Russian assets for Ukraine. Now, they've been talking about this for a long time, and that I don't imagine that's going to go over well. Russia's beginning to freeze Western assets, so American as well as Europe's. But with this, what I want to bring up is Janet Yellen has a plan to increase that amount by over 10x. And I believe that because if anybody can inflate a money supply like a pro, it's her for sure. So she's going to inflate even more. So we've got this on the flip side, which is kind of what I was just speaking about. Rising inflation will drive stock prices higher, says an expert. If you pay double for the can of Diet Coke, the stock price will eventually follow. And I agree with this. Basically, it's the same thing, money trying to find a place to go, or if everybody has the same amount of money, they're going to pay more for the same goods and services. So he's kind of saying you should invest in the stock market during inflation. Now, I'm going to say something contrary, and I'm sure people are going to get this wrong. I agree. You should put your money, the currency, I should say, is devaluing. Put it into assets. Stock markets can be assets, although if they get overpurchased and they have to recover or basically correct back to prices, that's when you lose money. There is high risk of that at this moment. However, the stock market keeps going up because the inflation is continuing and it will continue to go. And as this continues, we've got more banks that are failing. They have to hike rates in order to stay ahead of this inflation, and the banks are shutting out, and this is by design. So West Coast Community Bank Corp, these both California banks, is to merge with First Capital. So we're going to be seeing more banks going out of business, merging, closing down. And I feel like I say this every time, but I have to remind, someone has reminded me, and I have to remind myself, there's new people here. So bear with me if I sound like I keep repeating myself, but it's very critical. So we've got BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. They've hit a 6-week inflow high amid early Bitcoin rally. Well, this is another case of money has to find a place to go. So now they're looking at ETFs, cryptocurrencies, and other places. So I want to bring up this is kind of relatively new concept within the last year or two. And I've been looking at this as well because diamonds have come under quite a bit of pressure, especially sanctioning natural Russian diamonds. However, they were basically speculating between fake or lab created diamonds. And now natural diamonds are gaining back their strength, if you would. So, how do these work? They create these diamond standard coins or BCC tokens. So, if you see how these are basically, they kind of embed diamonds. They're all quality graded and put in with this card, or they've got what they call bars, but it's still with natural diamonds in them. And then this way they can value them and trade them. So if you want to get into precious gems as well as precious metals as far as trading, this is one more idea. I'm not big on art, although that's another idea. So what are we watching with this? We've got Israel recalling their envoys because Spain, Ireland, and Norway all commit to recognizing the Palestinian state. So as they're doing this, it's basically alienating Israel, but kind of a good thing, because if they recognize them as Palestinian state, they can also basically export all of these asylum seekers and say, well, now you have your state and we're going to help you get back to that. I don't count on that happening, but we'll see. We've got the US and Saudi Arabia close to a defense and civil nuclear deal. Now, this is growing in the background. What did we just have happen? In the center here, the death of Iran's president and what this means for the Middle East. Arguably not much, because who is taking over for him is basically continuing with what's going on. I don't believe that the West has someone set up in order to take over there. That would be the alternative. So I believe there's going to be a continuation there. However, getting more into this civil nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia is going to be very interesting. We're sanctioning Russia for uranium. So there's a lot going on in this sector. We've got the EU basically telling America that strikes in Russia, on Russian soil, with United States weapons would help Kiev hold the line. Well, I don't think they would be very pleased about that, and I don't think they're going to take it very well. So, bad idea. Want to move forward a little bit. We've got the World Economic Forums. Now these are all the basically puppet masters. We've got Mr. Klaus Schwab here, who was the president. He's stepping down. And this is who's going to take his place. This Norwegian WF guy. I don't expect a lot of changes on this. However, it could. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll always update you on this, of course. So with this, we've got the United States Army awarding $1.6 million to Wave Motion for development of jet gun technology. So kind of covered it over there, but it's a short jet gun basically using this wave motion, so it can project pretty much everything, anything that would fit in. You don't need a unique caliber to use it. So, and it has other implications, but I just want to bring that out because it was interesting. So with that, not going to do much of garden section today, except that I've been brought up by a couple of people that I should warn that consuming large amounts of some of these herbs as teas could have health risks. And that's true because they're medicinal. And so you need to, like everything, moderation. So everything should be taken in moderation, including moderation. So if you've got small spaces, another thing I heard with your gardens, you don't have much room, there's a couple of areas. You can go vertical with these. There's a couple of areas with that. This one I thought was a clever idea with the cinder blocks. You just need to make sure of leaking and what type of plants you're putting in there. And then if you have a small space just on a balcony even, you can get your plants out there. So, and if you can't do plants at all, then try to trade skills. So with that, before I go on too long, I would like to wish you all a great day and hope to see you in Discord. Until I see you again, my friends, stay free.